Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. Coming from the New York Post, free-falling media face grim prospects as reach and influence wane. And also from the New York Post, MSNBC's Rachel Maddow, that's this lady, gets a $5 million salary cut despite being ratings Viagra supposedly. I can't imagine anyone's that excited to see Rachel Maddow, but for MSNBC, it's relatively a big deal. Still, she's hit with a $5 million salary cut, and who knows what happens to her once MSNBC and the rest of their cable channels get spun off. As 2025 dawns, legacy media are in free fall, their public trust in tatters, their viewership and readership cratering. The legacy media is dying as a result of two major factors. First, the landscape the legacy media once controlled no longer exists. No longer do the liberal media ecosystems of New York and Washington, D.C. set the terms of the national conversation. No longer do a handful of major corporate entities like ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, the New York Times, and the Washington Post regulate thought and debate. Instead, the most listened to broadcast is the Joe Rogan podcast out of Austin, Texas, averaging 11 million views per episode. For context, CNN can't attract more than 400,000 viewers to its primetime lineup these days, less than 4% of what Rogan generates. Online, Elon Musk's X is the #1 source for news in the world. Meanwhile, to take one example, the Washington Post lost more than $70 million and 50% of its audience, 50% in 2023, and is reportedly on track to lose more than $75 million in 2024. Several prominent reporters have left the Washington Post to work at places like The Atlantic. Second, and a major reason for the exodus, is the loss of respect that followed the legacy media's gross breaches of integrity and ethics in recent years. It's gone on a little bit too long. They burned up the last credibility they had left. Many in the media debased themselves by blatantly lying about the state of Joe Biden's cognitive abilities. They openly cheered on Kamala Harris's campaign and tried to etch-a-sketch her radical positions and those of her goofy running mate Tim Walz out of existence, laughably trying to sell them as joyous centrist candidates. It didn't work. And all the while, they trashed Donald Trump and his supporters as fascist and uninformed. But these efforts failed, and as Trump swept his way to a resounding victory, his triumph underscored both the waning influence of the mainstream media and the public's disdain. Overall, according to Gallup, just 27% of independent voters trust the media, and only 12% of Republicans say the same. With those factors as the backdrop, watch for these three media trends in 2025. First, more journalists are going to go independent. The old days of brick-and-mortar newsrooms as the absolutely necessary requirement for quality reporting are over. Great investigative reporters, including Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, Barry Weiss, and Catherine Harridge, have been jumping over to subscriber-based Substack, or in Weiss's case, launching the Free Press, her own online publication. John Solomon also did the same thing. The money for those who succeed in these forums can be quite lucrative, as in 7 figures lucrative. But most importantly, these writers' corporate gatekeepers are no more, freeing them to control their own content. Next, we can expect to see a lot more pay cuts and layoffs. The days of big contracts for network and cable news hosts are coming to an end. We've already seen stars like Rachel Maddow take a $5 million annual pay cut, while veterans such as Chris Wallace jump ship at CNN to supposedly do his own podcast. The reason? The 77-year-old, who was reportedly pulling down $7 million a year, was told he could only stay if he took a sizable slash in salary. Why? The ratings simply aren't there to justify such huge contracts. Without strong demand, advertisers find other places to spend their money. Cord cutting also continues to accelerate, with more than 10 million people saying goodbye to paid TV services in favor of streaming. When you add it all up, falling revenues and fewer subscribers mean smaller contracts and likely large-scale job losses. It's that simple. And we should also expect to see an explosion of defamation suits. ABC News recently settled with Trump after anchor George Stephanopoulos repeated on 10 occasions in a single interview with Representative Nancy Mace that the former and future president had been convicted of something he was not convicted of. It was a lie, and Trump rightly called the former Clinton operative, that's George Stephanopoulos, out on it in a defamation suit. ABC, likely fearing what could be revealed in the discovery phase of the trial, such as warnings that supposedly George Stephanopoulos was getting from his producer saying, "Don't accuse Trump of this, do not do it." And yet he did it anyway, that's the rumor at least. ABC also knows full well that Stephanopoulos' unambiguous words would simply be read back to a jury, forcing them to settle, paying Trump $15 million plus another $1 million for Trump's legal fees. Some media observers on the far left cried foul, arguing ABC had been bullied into settling. Quote, "You can't have the news industry worrying about this sort of stuff when they're just simply doing their jobs," whined Jim Acosta on CNN. Because apparently doing their jobs includes intentionally referring to a conviction that never happened. Moving forward in 2025, expect many more lawsuits to be leveled when media outlets lie, as Stephanopoulos did, or twist the facts, as actor Justin Baldoni alleges the New York Times did in a $250 million defamation suit just filed on Tuesday. And Rachel Maddow, even though she's Viagra for ratings? Really? Yeah, well, that's what an executive said that. That's where they're getting that from. From the New York Post, MSNBC's Rachel Maddow's salary reportedly cut by $5 million despite being ratings Viagra as parent company Comcast deals with difficulties. MSNBC/star anchor Rachel Maddow's annual salary by $5 million as the left-leaning network continues to reel from parent company Comcast's decision to spin off its struggling cable properties, according to a report. Maddow, who takes in $30 million a year for hosting the Rachel Maddow Show just one day a week on Mondays, renegotiated for a $25 million salary for the next 5 years. Quote, "This is a difficult time and they needed to keep her," one executive told the news site. "No one else can do what she does. You can't build a brand like it overnight." $25 million a year for one night a week with Rachel Maddow. That is not a healthy balance of spending on content and getting production out of someone. I'm sure some people are tuning in to watch Rachel Maddow, but at the same time, what is that really doing for the rest of the network if they're not getting rich off of her one show, which clearly they can't possibly be? The ratings can't be that high to justify that kind of pay. A source with knowledge disputed that Maddow's haircut was for $5 million, but would not say how much less she will be earning. The pay reduction comes as panic engulfed MSNBC's 30 Rock headquarters in Midtown over Comcast's plan to spin off its cable channels by the end of 2025, in a company that they've named SpinCo so far, which is the name of a company you would come up with if it was something you were just talking about in a meeting with people, not literally like you would announce it to the press, which is what they've done. They will probably eventually rebrand it as something else, but splitting off MSNBC from NBC News could force the cable channel to change its name, logo, and headquarters, and it may also lead to layoffs. Maddow's new deal will keep her in the anchor chair on Monday nights and allow her to produce podcasts and documentaries, according to The Ankler. The Ankler is a media business-focused website. The network also plans to use her as a secret weapon on other shows when there's breaking news, according to the outlet. MSNBC's ratings have tanked 54% in the days after President-elect Donald Trump's victory over Vice President Kamala Harris, a win that left MSNBC's staunchly anti-Trump host speechless. The ratings are down 40% from this time last year, according to Nielsen. Quote, "We were so pro-Harris propaganda that when she lost, viewers were shocked," one on-air commenter told The Ankler. Now, the network's producers are wrestling with how to move forward as the only safe place for a liberal TV audience, according to one insider. During Trump's first administration, MSNBC hosted Democrats who speak Republican, like Hugh Hewitt and Nicole Wallace, according to an insider. But the company is now unsure how to handle the Star Wars freak show, as they call it, of Trump's new appointees, one producer told The Ankler. Quote, "I don't know if having these people on would put any useful information out." MSNBC is sure about Maddow, though, with one executive calling her ratings Viagra. Meanwhile, the network's other star anchors, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski of Morning Joe, have come under fire for cozying up to Trump after years of criticizing him on air. Legacy media no longer has the power and influence that it had. When social media was kept completely censored all the time, you couldn't get any information that you'd want to get on social media. People got way too easily banned. You couldn't talk freely on social media. It's a little bit more constricted right now, and there's also a massive debate going on about H-1B visas, and Elon Musk is pro-visas, and many Americans are against those visas. That said, it's a very different environment than it was just a few years ago. And even if these legacy media outlets only had equal influence compared to what's going on social media, that still wouldn't be enough for them. And they're nowhere near that. This is the end of the influence of legacy media. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.